You get out of the store now, any of your requests will be denied.
Luxury boutique, midday. Glass cases, cool white LEDs. A manager blocks a black CEO at the counter. This area is for members. Her hand lifts open palm stop. No argument, just a breath. Timestamp this. Phone on speaker, ops line live. A soft chirp, badge detected. Overlay, 5/4/59. Customers start filming. Policy? She asks. Show me. Another beat. Log everything. The camera tilts to the ceiling cam, red LED blinking. The CRM tablet glows on the glass. A profile waits behind a pin. She doesn't flex. She audits. Do you want proof on system? The countdown keeps falling. At 0, careers change. Midday in a high-end jewelry boutique. The room hums with quiet air and careful money. Case lighting paints every bezel and watch face in a clean white band. A couple at the door pauses at the shimmer and then at the standoff forming at the main counter. The floor manager squares herself like a velvet rope in a suit. Her chin lifts. This area is for members only. She delivers it like policy carved in glass. Across from her stands a black CEO in a cobalt blazer. No raised voice, no defensive smile, palm open at shoulder height. She is not here to argue, she is here to observe. The silence stretches long enough for the room to pick a side. A junior associate flinches and glances up at the dome camera near the chandelier mount. A kid by the bracelet case unlocks his phone. The manager doubles down. We have very strict guidelines on who can handle high-ticket pieces. Guests must remain on the retail side. The word guests lands with a thud. The CEO blinks once. She sets her phone flat on the glass and taps the speaker. A gentle click answers back from the other end. Operations. Please capture video and preserve audio from the front counter. Time is 12:05. Begin a 5-minute hold. A soft chirp comes from the CEO's wrist as her credential wakes near the reader under the counter lip. The manager pretends not to hear it. The CEO does not move toward the merchandise. She moves toward the record. Elena would log a refusal of service at 12:05 with the manager on duty present. The associate named Elena swallows and nods. Her fingers hover over the CRM tablet as if it might burn. Customers ease closer but stay in the aisles. Someone whispers, she is not yelling, she is documenting. The ceiling camera's red LED pulses. The ops line breathes in the background. Copy, video capture active, audio channel preserved. The room feels different when a system wakes up. Everyone stands straighter without meaning to. Policy suddenly has to live next to proof. The manager reaches for authority she does not own. If you do not exit the member side, I will call security. The CEO turns her head as if hearing the weather on a radio. Which policy says owners may not approach their own inventory? Show me the line, show me the clause. The request is not loud, but it takes air out of the boutique. Elena lifts the tablet just enough to peek at the search bar. She knows a profile is in there that will end this quickly. The CEO does not rush her. She lets the 5 minutes do the talking. She keeps her hand open. She keeps her voice low. Time stamp this. The words are simple and they carry weight. A middle-aged couple by the rings case starts recording with the lens tucked in their palms. The manager notices and tries for the smile that fixes everything. It does not reach her eyes. Ma'am, we have to protect our brand. The CEO tilts her head. Protect it with standards, not with labels. Ops confirm the last internal inspection and the training date for this location. Copy. The last inspection passed with conditions. Training refresh is overdue by 3 weeks. The manager exhales through her nose, the way people do when a computer chooses sides. The room hears it. Elena clears her throat. I can pull the CRM owner record if needed. The manager cuts in. That will not be necessary. We have a process. The CEO answers without heat. We do. And we will follow it on system. The tablet screen brightens. The owner's profile sits behind a 4-digit PIN. The associate waits for permission to step into the truth. The CEO gives a single nod. The manager tries one last angle. Without membership verification or a purchase history view, I cannot let you pass the rope. The CEO looks down at the imaginary rope and then at the clock above the door. 4 minutes remain. She does not touch the cases. She does not touch the rope. She only touches the record. Do you want proof of the system? The question is a bridge and a warning. The ops line speaks again. Legal is copied. CCTV archived to the incident bucket. The words land like gentle thunder. This is no longer a disagreement at a counter. It is a document living in multiple places. The manager's hand lowers a fraction. Not an apology, a calculation. The customers feel it. Cameras rise a little higher. The boutique becomes a small courtroom without a judge. The CEO glances once at Elena. Please proceed. The associate inhales and taps. The tablet reveals the owner credential tied to the same mobile number, now on speaker. A thumbnail photo matches the woman in the cobalt blazer at the counter. The manager goes very still. The CEO's voice is almost kind. Thank you. Now mark the refusal before the reveal. Keep the timeline clean. 3 minutes. The hum of the air system returns to the edge of hearing. The CEO does not deliver a speech. She does not list titles. She lets the artifacts speak. A chirp from the badge. A preserved log. A profile on the glass. A crowd that saw the moment the truth arrived. She breathes in. She breathes out. Then 4 words that seal the room. Log everything. The clock above the door sheds another minute. 2 crisp chimes from the phone confirm the incident packet is building. Elena's tablet shows the owner profile in a modest frame, not a billboard, exactly how a system should speak. The CEO nods once, and Elena locks the screen, hands visible on the counter. The refusal sits in the log with a clean timestamp. The record is now smarter than the room. The manager senses the shift and reaches for theatrics. She pivots to the associates and says that the guest is obstructing operations. She says it like it is a line from training. A nearby couple exchange looks. Operations replies on speaker, steady as a metronome. We have continuous capture from the entrance to register 3. Please avoid escalations. The manager hears it, smiles at the customers, and picks up the house phone anyway. Security to the showroom, she says into the handset. The sentence travels across the ceiling speakers in a thin announcement that sounds larger than the moment. Phones lift higher. A man in a bomber jacket moves a step closer to the door as if forming an informal aisle. The CEO keeps her palm open. Her other hand is still on the glass next to the phone. She is the calmest surface in the store. Which step of your standard operating procedure authorizes a public call before internal verification? She asks. The question is precise and leaves little space to wriggle. Show me the step number and the revision date. Elena flicks her eyes toward the printed SOP binder behind the counter. The manager does not reach for it. She says that she is protecting inventory, that the policy is standard, that it is above her head. She gestures to the rope again, as if rope can provide cover when a record has already stripped it away. Ops, the CEO says, confirm the last 2 incidents that involved public calls to security at this location. A short pause. 2 in the last 6 months, both escalated prematurely, both resulted in training notes. The manager swallows. The boutique suddenly feels like it has windows into its own past. The CEO does not look away. Mark that pattern beside today's refusal. Note the language used. No adjectives, just quotes. From the entrance, a guard appears. Not rushing, just doing the job. He reads the room, sees the phone on speaker, the tablet with its glow, the customers filming. Ma'am, he begins. How can I help? The CEO turns slightly so her voice carries. Please remain as a witness. There is no threat here. We are documenting a service refusal and a misuse of procedure. The guard places his hands behind his back and says he will stand by. Relief crosses a few faces in the crowd because a person in uniform chose to be a witness rather than a weapon. The manager makes one more reach for control. She asks the guard to remove the camera phones. The guard declines. The CEO does not comment. She looks at Elena. Pull up the purchase order schedule for 12/10. Vendor walkthrough for new platinum line, Elena reads. That walkthrough is mine, the CEO says softly. We will begin on time. We will not begin with you. The line is quiet, not cruel. The manager's shoulders stiffen as if bracing for a storm that is already falling as drizzle. Ops notes populate the call. Legal present. HR notified me. Access control audit queued. Each phrase is a light flicking down a hallway. The associate nearest the ring case inhales like they have been holding their breath since the first no. The CEO asks the manager a final clean question. Is there any document you would like to enter into the record before we proceed? The manager glances at the binder and then at the guard and then at the customers. No. 2 minutes remain. The CEO turns the phone slightly so the mic faces the manager. Please state your name and role for the log. The manager provides both. Her voice sounds smaller than earlier because performance and procedure are different sizes. The CEO does not gloat. She asks Elena to read the refusal note as it currently stands. Elena's voice is even. Customers are categorized as guests, denied access to the member side, refusal persisted after internal ownership indicators were present. Time 12:05 to 12:08. Notes cross-referenced with CCTV. The room absorbs the words. The system becomes the story. The manager tries one last pivot, something about brand image. The CEO lets the sentence fade. Brand is what remains after the paperwork. She looks to ops. On my mark, freeze the manager's access at the end of this minute. Prepare a temporary elevation for Elena to stabilize the floor. The guard shifts his weight and nods to no one in particular. He understands that outcomes are about to become permanent. 1 minute, the CEO studies the faces in the boutique, not to memorize them, but to make sure they know the standard that will replace this noise. She thanks the customers for their patience and reminds them that filming is lawful in a public-facing retail space. The crowd relaxes around the truth of it. She taps the glass once, a metronome strike for the record. Then she says the same 4 words she started with, letting them carry forward into the next step: log everything. The last minute thins out like the tail of a song. Ops confirms HR is on the line. Legal is listening. The guard stands easy, weight-centered, eyes soft. Elena keeps the tablet at a respectful angle, brightness down, ready. The manager's smile has become a mask that no longer fits. The customers are quiet in a way that feels careful, like church before the first note. The CEO does not rush the ending. She asks Ops to read back the chain. Audio preserved from 12:05. Video archived from entrance to register 3. Prior incidents noted. Training refreshed overdue. Access control audit queued. HR and legal on the call. The store becomes a checklist you can walk through. No one is guessing. The room hears its own story, line by line. She turns to the manager without raising her chin. Before we proceed, is there anything accurate you want to add? Not a defense, not a feeling, a fact. The manager glances at the binder but does not reach for it. She says she was following policy. The CEO nods once, the way you nod to a forecast you already saw. We are here because policy was used as a weapon, not a standard. That ends today. She looks at Elena. Please unlock the owner profile and display the credential. Elena inhales, enters the PIN, and places the tablet on the glass where everyone can see it without crowding. The profile is simple. Name, principal owner. The mobile number matches the phone on the speaker, a small photo that looks exactly like the woman in the cobalt blazer standing here. The manager stills completely, shoulder muscles tightening under the fabric. The guard lets out a low breath. The CEO does not posture, she does not narrate. She lets the evidence sit for a full beat so the mind can catch up with the eyes, then she speaks evenly. For the record, I am the owner of this location and the principal for the brand. I was denied service and misidentified as a guest after internal ownership indicators were present. A public security call was initiated before internal verification. 2 prior calls this year show the same premature escalation pattern. Training is overdue. These facts are confirmed on the system. 0 hits quietly, not like a bell, more like a soft click when a mechanism locks. She nods to Ops. Proceed. The line is steady. HR is present. Are you confirming termination of manager on duty effective immediately? Yes. Terminate manager on duty effective at this time. Freeze her access. Disable back office codes. Revoke alarm credentials. Note cause as procedural misuse leading to customer harm and brand risk. Copy. Effective now. The manager's phone vibrates once on the counter. The access system chirps a descending tone that everyone understands without training. The manager starts to speak, but the CEO holds up her palm. the same quiet gesture that opened all of this. We are done arguing in public. If you would like to provide a statement, HR will take it off the floor. The guard steps closer, not to remove, but to accompany. He offers the manager a respectful nod. This way, she walks with him, posture brittle. No one jeers, no one claps. The room is too dignified for that. The CEO turns to Elena. You spoke the truth and kept the system honest. Effective immediately, you are acting floor lead for the next 72 hours while HR posts the role. Ops, elevate Elena's permissions to stabilize the register, vendor intakes, and lockups. Confirm coaching and support, copy, temporary elevation granted, training resources assigned. Elena exhales in a way that sounds like relief and burden at once. She straightens the tablet and centers it on the counter as if aligning the room. The CEO addresses the customers. Thank you for your patience. We will reopen the member side in 2 minutes. You are welcome to keep your recordings. If any of you would like to share contact information as witnesses, Elena will collect it without interrupting your shopping. Heads nod, phones lower. The energy shifts from spectacle to standard. She calls one more item into the record. Ops, schedule a full audit of this location, review hiring and training logs for the last 12 months, cross-reference escalations with outcomes. Place a training freeze on any upcoming internal recognition until recertification is complete. Legal. Prepare a brief for a public statement that explains policy and accountability without naming individuals. The line answers. All actions noted and queued. The CEO takes a final look around the boutique. The rope is still there, but it no longer divides anything that matters. The cases glow again like they did before the noise. She taps the glass once, not for drama, just to mark the end of the minute. Then she closes the loop the way she opened it with the simplest instruction in the room. Log everything. The boutique exhales. The guard has escorted the former manager to HR. The crowd softens back into shoppers, but a quiet alertness lingers, the kind that comes after a near miss on the highway. The CEO asks Ops to pin the incident packet to the location dashboard and mirror it to the district view. A clean record invites a clean reset. The speakerphone clicks as confirmations stack. Archive complete. Access changes propagated. Audit scheduled for Friday at 9. Elena sets the tablet on the counter like a level, then gathers the associates with a simple look rather than a speech. The CEO keeps her voice steady and practical. We will restore service and standards at the same time. Elena, you own the floor. Split coverage between the member side and the general retail side. One associate manages intake for repairs. One watches the register. One handles fittings and private viewings by appointment, but with some flexibility until the system catches up. She asks Ops to push a quick reference sheet to every device in the store. The document is not a manifesto. It has 3 columns and a few lines in each. What we do, what we do not do, how we prove it. There is a section for identification that prioritizes system checks over visual assumptions. There is a note about public calls to security that requires internal verification first. There is a reminder that anyone can ask for a policy citation with a revision date, and that staff must be ready to show it without mood or spin. Elena reads the sheet and nods once, like someone who finally has the right tool. She assigns the associate from the ring case to personal appointments and the associate from Register 3 to intake. She takes the floor herself to absorb the questions that will come next. The CEO watches how she moves and finds the poise she will need to keep. You did the hard thing in real time, the CEO says. Now do the simple things extremely well. Eye contact, pace, proof before posture. The CEO turns to a small group of customers who stayed to see what happens after a storm. Thank you for your patience. The member side is open. If you have an appointment, we will honor it on time. If you did not, Elena can slot you into a fitting room as available. The customers relax into decision-making again. Phones go back into pockets, not because anyone asked, but because the reason for filming has passed. She calls the vendor representative and speaks in the same even tone she used for the record. We begin the Platinum Line walkthrough at 12:10 as planned. Please enter through the side door. Security will remain as a witness only. Thank you for your flexibility. The vendor arrives within 2 minutes with a rolling case and a checklist. The guard opens the door and then steps back to his post, a presence without pressure. Ops notifies that a training freeze is in effect for this location until recertification. The CEO does not flinch at the word freeze. It does not mean punishment, it means a pause to pull the thread straight. She asks legal to draft a customer-facing statement that explains the standard without naming anyone. She asks HR to build a quick module that turns this exact incident into a teaching case with timestamps and a quiz. She asks the district lead to schedule listening sessions with staff who have stories they never had a safe place to tell. Elena starts a quiet rhythm at the counter. She thanks people by name. She moves a repair intake along without rushing it. She resets a tray with precise fingers. She checks the CRM first when a high-value inquiry arrives. The behaviors look small and ordinary, which is the point. Standards are not fireworks. They are habits that outlast the mood of a day. The CEO walks the perimeter of the boutique, not to admire the inventory, but to see the sight lines a camera sees. She notes which corners are too dim for facial recognition to be useful and asks ops to adjust the case lighting. She checks the placement of the SOP binder and asks Elena to put a laminated card on top with current revision dates. She marks a quiet corner where a customer can step aside to ask a question or to breathe. Space is a policy too. She returns to the counter as the vendor sets out the first tray of platinum. The timing is exact. The room that felt like a courtroom now feels like a showroom again. The difference is not the light. It is the presence of a record and the knowledge that it will be used. The CEO thanks the guard for staying as a witness and lets him know he is free to move to the door. He nods. People around them begin to talk about the designs instead of the incident. Before the walkthrough starts, the CEO speaks one more time into the ops line. Final note for this segment: denial recorded, pattern identified, access frozen, truth keeper elevated, audit on calendar, customer statement in draft, training case in production. She closes the call. No flourish, no curtain. The work moves forward without her voice having to push it. Elena catches her eye and gives a small nod that says the floor is stable. The CEO looks at the clock. 10 minutes past the hour, right on time for the work she came to do. The walkthrough begins without ceremony. The vendor opens the rolling case, sets out a foam tray, and names the pieces in a steady cadence that sounds like inventory, not hype. Elena positions the tablet beside the tray, already on the product page for the new line, already linked to the appointment slot that should have started at 12:10. The system is now leading instead of lagging. That is the point. The CEO stands where a customer would and asks the same questions any trained buyer should ask. Provenance confirmed on file. Metal assay numbers match the certificate. RFID tag registers on the reader with a clean chirp. Elena checks each element without breaking eye contact for more than a second at a time. She is not performing. She is proving. The customers who stayed see the rhythm of it and begin to relax into the ordinary pleasure of choosing something beautiful. The vendor watches the room and understands what just happened. He adjusts his tempo. When he needs a signature for the intake, he slides the screen toward Elena, not toward the space where the former manager stood. The CEO notices and says thank you in a tone that lands like a policy accepted. She asks ops to add a note to the vendor profile aligned with floor protocol, assisted stabilization. Small lines like that matter in a chain because they travel farther than speeches. A soft tone pings on every device in the store. Not an alarm, a push. District guidance updated. It contains 3 pages and takes less than 2 minutes to read. The first page clarifies identification checks. Use CRM and credentials before you use eyes. The second page rewrites the rule for public calls to security. No external page unless internal verification is complete, unless there is an immediate safety threat. The third page outlines the procedure when a refusal is logged. Preserve audio and video, name roles for the record, and avoid narration that assigns motive. It is dry on purpose. Dry rules are less likely to be bent. The guard returns to the door and holds it for a couple entering with a service request. He greets them like ordinary customers and gives a brief nod to the tablet on the counter as if to say the story is in there and does not need to be retold. The CEO catches his eye and asks for his name so it can be entered as a witness who chose de-escalation rather than force. That note joins the packet. People rise to meet the version of themselves the record describes. The CEO steps aside with Elena between customers. Short coaching, all muscle and no fat. Keep lead times realistic. Use the script that points to proof. When someone challenges you, let the evidence talk first. Elena nods. She does not ask for a title. She asks for a checklist. The CEO smiles without showing teeth and hands it over. Temporary lead responsibilities, register authority, intake control, SOP binder custody, badge permissions review at end of day. The list is not glamorous. It is what keeps a floor from drifting. Ops adds a line to the call log about training. Convert this incident into a case study. Blur faces, keep timestamps. Insert quick questions after each beat so staff learn the difference between a policy and a habit dressed as policy. Legal approves the outline in the same minute. HR flags, names to protect. The chain now owns a teaching moment built on facts, not rumor. That is how culture changes without a press release. Two customers circle back to the counter, hesitant. The CEO meets them with simple language. If you need privacy, Elena can place you in a viewing room. If you prefer to browse on the open floor, that is fine too. We will ask only for the checks that live on the system. No one here is taking a test. The couple relaxes and follows Elena to a quiet space. The door closes with a soft seal that sounds like an exhale. The vendor finishes the first tray and offers a second. The CEO reviews the purchase plan without rushing. She spreads orders to balance inventory across the district so one location does not carry the pressure of being the only place to find a piece. She schedules a social post that is not about drama. It is a clean image of a new bracelet, captioned with the appointment link and a simple note about standards customers can expect. She does not reference the incident. She lets the work speak for itself. Another push appears, this time chain-wide. Temporary freeze on internal recognition events until all boutique staff complete the recertification module. It is not a punishment. It removes incentives that could reward speed over care. District leads will host listening sessions next week. Anonymous reporting will be turned into visible fixes with dates attached. The message is plain, accountability is a calendar, not a feeling. Before the vendor packs up, the CEO makes one more call on speaker so the room can hear the cadence. Ops, summary to date. Ops reads it back. Refusal logged. Pattern confirmed. Access revoked. Acting lead appointed. Vendor walkthrough completed on time. District guidance published. Audit scheduled. Training case in production. Customer statement in draft. She adds one more line. Recognize Elena with a shift differential today and enroll her in the management mentorship track effective immediately. HR answers. Noted and approved. She thanks the customers who witnessed the process. If you save recordings, you may keep them. If you prefer to share them, Elena can collect contact details for legal, but there is no requirement. Transparency is not a performance, it is a habit. The crowd disperses into ordinary shopping sounds. A credit card tap, tissue paper, a latch closing on a velvet box. The clock reads 12:21. The boutique looks like a showroom again because the record underneath it is clean. The CEO places a hand on the counter, just once, like a period at the end of a sentence. Then she does the only thing she repeats on purpose, the sentence that keeps this series honest. Log everything. The boutique holds steady as the vendor closes his case. The CEO steps into the back office for the first time today, not to retreat, but to make the fix durable. The room is small, built for receipts and break schedules, not for decisions that ripple across a chain. She sets the phone on the desk and brings ops back on speaker. Build a post-incident checklist for this location that any store can follow without translation. Start with the exact conditions we saw, misuse of a policy phrase, premature security call, missed training window, then list the counter moves. Timestamp, preserve audio and video. Ask for the policy by name and revision. Trigger allocation audit. She scans the wall where the SOP binder lives. It is tidy, but too quiet. She asks Elena to place a laminated card at the front desk with the 3 things any customer can request without friction. The policy name, the revision date, the contact route for a district lead. She wants the front of the house to be able to answer the question, why is it this way, without placing the burden on a person's face. That card will turn tension into a reference instead of a test. Legal joins the call and offers language for a customer statement. The CEO strips it for excess. She removes defensiveness, removes the urge to explain intent, removes anything that reads like a press conference. The final version is a few lines. We failed a standard today. We corrected it in public and on the system. We are auditing this location and refitting training across the district. If you witness the interaction and want to share material, Elena will accept it and route it to legal. No names, no spectacle, just work. HR asks for the cause code on the termination. The CEO repeats it cleanly so the record is exact. Procedural misuse leading to customer harm and brand risk. She requests a cooling off period for the team who worked under the former manager. She asks HR to schedule one-on-one so people can talk about patterns without fear of reprisal. The district lead agrees to hold the space and to write what they hear as action items, not anecdotes. The CEO wants repair to live on a timeline because timelines move. She dials the security contractor next. She does not ask for more bodies. She asks for clarity. From now on, guards on boutique floors will be trained to choose witness posture first when there is no immediate threat. She adds a line to the contract. De-escalation as a deliverable with a metric. The contractor agrees. Metrics change behavior because someone has to own them at a quarterly meeting. The CEO returns to the floor as the last of the early crowd drifts out. She checks in with the guard and thanks him for choosing the role of witness. She asks Ops to log his decision as a positive action in the incident packet. In her chain, good choices should leave footprints too. She thanks 2 customers who stayed to offer contact details as witnesses. She does not ask them to post. She does not ask for likes. She respects that people will do what they do with their own footage and leaves it there. Elena steps over with the tablet for a quick sync. The register is stable, intake clear, member side running on appointments and proof. Elena's voice is calm, her sentences short. The CEO gives her the path forward. For 72 hours, you are acting led. You will have coaching every morning at open and a debrief at close. You will shadow a district mentor by video for an hour each day, focused on the difference between policy, guideline, and habit. In 1 week, if the audit is clean and the floor is steady, we will make the role permanent or open it with you as the top candidate. Elena nods with a look that reads as, yes, and also I understand the work required. The district lead arrives quietly and takes a tour with the CEO. They do not talk about the incident for long. They talk about sight lines, scheduling, inventory balance, and the boring parts that stop dramatic days from forming. They adjust the calendar for peak hours so the most experienced staff are on the member side when stakes run high. They install a 5-minute pre-open ritual, read the laminated card aloud, check the escalation rule. Review the phrase if you want proof of the system until it is muscle memory. Ops reports that the audit schedule is pinned, Friday at 9. The CEO asks for a pre-audit pulse tomorrow, a half hour of dry checks, credential tests, alarm code review, SOP binder revision dates. She adds a cross-check that compares who gets asked for extra proof against who does not. She wants the numbers written down so people can see if a pattern lives underneath the store's manners. Patterns change when they have to live in daylight. She calls a nonprofit partner who trains retail teams on bias-aware service. She does not ask for a keynote. She asks for a workshop in the stockroom with stools and water bottles and a facilitator who will keep it plain. The nonprofit agrees to hold 2 sessions next week. The CEO authorizes a fee and a measurement plan, pre and post survey, anonymous comments turned into specific fixes, not a poster for the break room, a checklist that adjusts behavior. Before she ends the round of calls, she asks Ops to add a standing tag to the incident packet called Aftercare. It will hold the promotion action for Elena, the training sessions, the audit dates, the contract change with security, the card for customers, the chain-wide guidance. She wants anyone who opens the file months from now to see not only what went wrong and who was held accountable, but also what changed because of it. That is the difference between punishment and standards. When she steps back onto the sales floor, the noise is ordinary again. A laugh near the bracelets, the sound of tissue paper, the soft thud of a cabinet closing. She feels the room settle into what it is built for. Not a spectacle, service. She thanks Elena without ceremony and moves toward the door. As her hand meets the glass, she pauses just long enough to say the sentence that keeps every moment tethered to proof. Log everything. The afternoon moves like a clean ledger. The boutique runs on ordinary rhythms, but the wider system begins to turn. Ops pings the district channel with a short note that links to the incident packet. The file is not gossip, it is a tutorial. It opens with timestamps and ends with action items. Store leads across the city, read it between customers, then forward it to deputies with a single sentence. Learn this cadence. The CEO does not broadcast a speech. She lets the document carry her voice. Legal finalizes the customer statement. It posts on the brand site and inside the store at the entry table where the care guides sit. The language is steady. We failed a standard at this location. We corrected it in public and on the system. We are auditing, retraining, and adjusting contracts where needed. If you witness the interaction and wish to share material, Elena will receive it and route it to legal. No names are included. No blame is assigned in print. The facts are enough. HR confirms the separation paperwork has been delivered off-site. They schedule debriefs with each associate who worked the shift. The template is simple and repeats as needed. What did you see? Which policy did you reach for? What tool would have changed your choice? Answers become tickets, and tickets get owners. A team that sees tickets close starts to believe that their own voice can move a wall. The district lead stands near the register for 20 minutes, watching how the floor breathes. They time the average customer dwell and note which cases draw questions. They watch Elena triage 3 requests without piling them on the same counter. When there is a lull, they coach without ceremony. Keep your sight lines. Make proof of your first language. Keep the checklist visible, not in your head. Elena nods and resets the tablet so the CRM home screen is always one tap away. The security contractor emails a revised training outline. It adds a module called Witness Posture. It defines the difference between presence and pressure and sets a response clock that discourages theater. The CEO replies with 2 changes. Add a scenario where the call is made on speaker and the guard must decide to stand down while still holding the perimeter. Add a metric scored by customer feedback rather than only incident count. The contractor agrees. The store will be the pilot site for the module next week. A small wave of social posts appeared from customers who were there. Some praise the calm. Some vent about the refusal. The brand replies with the same 3 lines in each case. We have a standard. We failed it and corrected it on the system. Our statements and actions are here. The replies are not mass-produced apologies. They point to the record and the plan. The CEO refuses to chase a mood when a map will do. Ops pulls 2 years of internal incident data for boutiques and overlays them with staffing and training timelines. Patterns emerge that feel obvious in hindsight. Stores that drifted from verification, first rules saw more escalations. Stores with a strong floor lead saw fewer. Districts that built a pre-open ritual had better outcomes. The graphs go into a 1-page brief the CEO can carry into any room where budget meets behavior. She does not demand more headcount. She asks to move the headcount. She trades a marketing event for 3 months of district mentors. Money follows the cleanest argument. The audit team sends a pre-audit pulse the next morning. Credentials tested. Alarm resets verified. SOP binder dates match to the laminated card that now lives at the front desk. A small list of fixes lands in Elena's inbox. She closes 3 of them before noon with simple actions. She moves a misplaced notice to eye level. She updates a training link that had expired. She labels a drawer with the tool that always goes missing. She is not grandstanding. She is making drag disappear. Midday, a repeat customer arrives who knows the former manager by name. He asks, what happened without appetite for drama? Just a need to trust the room. Elena tells him the store had a standards issue and that it was resolved on system. We are open and accountable. If you have questions about the process, I can show you the policy page and the revision dates. He nods and relaxes. He is here to buy an anniversary gift, not an explanation. He leaves with a receipt and a quiet sense that the place grew up between visits. The CEO steps back in as afternoon leans toward evening. She checks the counter for signs of fray and finds none. She thanks the guard again and asks for a quick debrief. He says he has been on dozens of calls where posture made the difference. This is the first time posture had a line item. He smiles and goes back to the door. The CEO files that line for later because contract language that changes a habit is the cheapest culture shift in retail. She walks Elena through a short end-of-day plan. Lock inventory with a second set of eyes, read back the day's actions on the ops call, confirm tomorrow's audit pulse. Keep a small ledger of questions that your team hears, not just the answers you give. Those questions will tell us where the next fix lives. Elena repeats it back in her own words without losing precision. That is how a standard becomes a person's voice. Before she leaves, the CEO adds one new habit to the store. When a policy is cited, the staff will point to the card and the date, and then to the system where the proof lives. If a customer wants to understand the why, the associate will offer the short version instead of a lecture. Verification first, privacy is respected, security used for safety, not theater. These are small sentences, but small sentences travel. She thanks the team in the language of work. You kept the floor steady. You moved the line. We will keep going. Then she rests her hand on the counter for a second, the way you touch a door frame after repainting it, just enough to feel the surface hold. She says the sentence that turns a day into a record that can teach other days. Log everything. Friday arrives on schedule. The audit team signs in at 9. 2 people with clipboards and a third on a laptop tied to the camera system. The boutique opens on time. Elena runs the floor without performing for the visitors. The auditors are not here for a show. They are here for receipts. They begin with credentials. Each login is tested on camera. Each access change shows the timestamp that HR pushed when the termination took effect. The alarm log displays a disabled code that once belonged to the former manager. The entries line up like tracks laid straight. They move to policy artifacts. The laminated card sits at the front desk, visible at eye level. It lists policy name, revision date, and district contact route. An associate reads it aloud the way they did at the pre-open ritual. The auditor asks for the SOP binder. Elena brings it and sets it down, open to the current page. The revision history shows last month and the emergency update from this week. The audit lead nods because paper that matches practice is rarer than it should be. Next is incident replay. The team requests the packet. Ops shares the link. The auditors scrub through the preserved footage. The refusal sits where it happened. The public call to security plays next. The guard's decision to stand as witness is audible. The reveal of the owner credential follows with the CRM screen in frame. The termination call is short and clean. The promotion action for Elena lands at the end. Facts assemble in order without narration. The audit team marks it complete. They pull staff for short interviews, not gotcha sessions. Clarifying questions. What do you do first when someone challenges access? Where does the proof live? When is a public call to security allowed? The answers are consistent enough to relax the room. Verification first. Proof on system. Public calls only after internal checks unless there is an immediate safety threat. The auditors note something small but telling. Associates point to the card before they point to a person. That order matters. The security contractor arrives for a pilot of the witness posture module. The guard who worked the incident answers the scenario prompts with a calm so practiced it looks like memory, not training. The new metric appears on the screen. Percentage of calls where the guard chose witness posture and de-escalation when no safety threat exists. It will be scored quarterly and linked to the service portion of the contract. He smiles because now posture is measurable and therefore teachable. HR completes the one-on-ones and sends a short roll-up. Staff felt pressure to perform policy rather than practice it. They wanted a route to ask for help without being seen as weak. The action list is simple: a daily micro huddle at open and close, a standing office hour with a district mentor twice a week, a script that replaces I cannot with here is how we do this with proof. The CEO signs it and adds a request. Track questions asked by customers as a signal for what to clarify on the card next month. Legal posts the customer statement on the store's entry table and on the website. It links to a new standards page that lists the policies by name and date and the exact wording for verification first. No photos from the incident appear there, no victory language, just the map and the mile markers. A handful of customers scan the QR code, read quietly, and then shop. Transparency turns volume down. Ops pushes the first version of the training case to the chain. Faces are blurred. Timestamps and captions guide the viewer. After each beat, a quick question appears. Which tool now? What would misuse look like? What action leaves the cleanest footprint? Managers will run it in 15-minute blocks before shifts. Completion is required for recert. Recognition events remain frozen until completion crosses 95%. The scoreboard is visible to district leads. Culture moves where eyes go. Midday. A regional owner calls to check whether the boutique needs a staffing parachute. The CEO declines the extra bodies and asks instead for permission to reallocate the budget. Cut one promotional event and fund 3 months of district mentors who can sit on floors during peak hours. The owner agrees. Money moves like water when the channel is already carved. Elena receives her first mentorship calendar invite. The subject line is plane, floor, lead, track, start. She also sees the shift differential hit the schedule for today. She does not post about it. She adjusts the coverage chart and sends a thank you that reads like the rest of the day. Short, precise, grateful without flourish. The audit team closes the visit with findings and an on-site debrief. Strengths: verification first behavior observed, witness posture by security, clear customer-facing policy artifacts. Gaps: one dim corner on camera 3, a training link that still points to an old module on one staff device. The fixes are assigned by name and date. Elena already has the light tech on a ticket. Ops updates the link before the auditors finish the sentence. Before the team leaves, the CEO asks for one more addition to the chain-wide metrics: verification rate by first action, escalation lag time before any external call, customer dignity notes from post-visit surveys. Not stars, words. Did you feel respected? Did someone show you the proof? These soft measures are hard to fake and easy to value when put next to sales. The auditors nod. Numbers should carry what stories cannot. The boutique's evening looks like a boutique again. People pick bracelets, silently check price points, try on, and step back from mirrors. The system under it hums steady. The CEO thanks the auditors, thanks the guard, thanks the team, and thanks the customers who became quiet witnesses and then returned to being shoppers. She rests her hand on the counter for a second to mark the moment and closes with the line that keeps today tied to tomorrow. Log everything. The week after the audit, the changes stop feeling like a response and start reading like routine. Ops publishes the chain-wide dashboard with 3 new tiles at the top: verification, first rate, witness posture rate, escalation lag time. Green means the first action was proof, amber means coaching, red means a district lead will show up in person. The boutique sits in green across the board. No one celebrates. They keep working. HR schedules the recertification windows. 15-minute blocks at open, followed by micro drills on the floor. Associates practice the sentence that puts proof ahead of posture. Here is the policy by name. Here is the revision date. Here is where it lives on the system. The drills look almost trivial to anyone not paying attention. To the team, they are muscle memory replacing guesswork. Elena keeps a clipboard with 3 columns and writes dates next to names without making a ceremony out of it. Legal finalizes an internal memo about language that travels. Guest-only language is retired unless the line is paired with a verification step. The memo recommends replacing soft labels with concrete actions. Please step to the register so we can verify your appointment on the system. The words might not trend on social media, and that is the point. They make a moment boring. Boring is safe. The security contractor runs the first witness posture workshop in the back room. The guard from the incident speaks for 5 minutes and then steps aside. The facilitator runs scenarios that end not with a dramatic arrest, but with a clean log and a cooled room. They score posture the way a coach scores form. Hands visible, voice even, eyes on exits. Choose a position that protects without cornering. The checklist goes into the contract as an appendix with a number. Contracts beat slogans because contracts get renewed. Marketing asks if the brand should say more publicly. The CEO says the statement on the site and the visible standards page are enough. She asks for the next campaign to focus on appointments and the new Platinum line, with a single sentence about verification first embedded into the copy where customers actually need it. Trust is earned in the checkout flow, not on a stage. Data from Ops shows a small shift after the incident. Customer dwell time is up by a minute on average. Returns hold steady. Appointment no-shows drop. The team suspects that clarity does a job. Even an ad cannot. When people know the rules, they decide faster. The CEO takes that chart into the budget review and trades a regional trunk show for another quarter of district mentors and lighting upgrades in 3 dim corners across the chain. Money moves again because it is the following proof. The district lead conducts listening sessions in the stockroom with stools and paper cups. People talk about moments when a label arrived before a welcome. They describe the feeling of being asked to perform authority instead of practice. The lead writes what they hear as tickets with owners and dates. 2 themes repeat. Staff want policy in their hand, not in a binder. Staff want permission to say, "I do not know, but I will check." The fixes are simple. Laminated cards at every counter. A visible route to the district leads to the front desk. The change is small and real. Elena starts her mentorship calls. The mentor is plain-spoken and precise. They set weekly goals that live in the calendar instead of in the air. Build a pre-close checklist that names who signs off on each case. Audit your own escalations for a week and write one thing you could have done earlier to stop the heat from rising. Shadow your most careful associate and learn one habit you do not already use. Elena responds with short notes and visible progress. She earns influence the boring way. A former customer who saw the incident comes back with a quiet thank you for how the store handled the aftermath. He is not looking for a discount. He is looking for stability. Elena shows him the standard card and points to the date. He nods and buys a gift he had been considering for months. It is a small sale on a big day, but it carries weight because it was made in a room that now tells the truth about itself. The CEO meets with the board's ethics committee and presents the packet as a live document, not a trophy. She walks them through each artifact that turns a confrontation into a system change. Timestamp, CCTV preservation. Ops line, HR causes code. Legal statement, security contract language. Training module, audit findings. Metrics added to the dashboard. They approve the budget shifts without debate because the ledger is cleaner than any speech. A second boutique in another district emails to say they caught a pattern early using the laminated card and the verification script. They resolved it at the counter with no call, no crowd, no damage. They add a note to their packet. The script worked. Proof first cooled the room. The CEO forwards it to the chain with a short subject line. Standards, scale. At close of week 2, Ops posts the first roll-up of the new metrics. Green holds. A few ambers are paired with coaching notes and dates. The team reads the line that matters most. Customer dignity notes trending positive. Did you feel respected? Did someone show you the proof? The answers are not a slogan. They are short sentences from people who came to buy something and left with their dignity intact. Before she leaves the boutique that evening, the CEO walks the floor once without speaking. She looks at sightlines, at the card, at the binder with fresh revision dates. She nods to the guard and to Elena and to the associate who moved the missing tool into a labeled drawer. She rests her hand on the counter for 1 second, a closing bracket on a week that chose standards over theater. Then she says the sentence that keeps every improvement tied to a record instead of a mood. Log everything. The month turns, and the changes settle into bone. The chain's dashboard opens each morning with 3 tiles at the top, verification first, witness posture, escalation lag, and a 4th arrives today, dignity notes. It pulls language from post-visit surveys instead of stars. Did someone show you the proof? Did you feel respected? Elena's store trends green across all 4. The point is not perfection. The point is that Drift now has nowhere to hide. Ops ships a small CRM update that looks like nothing until you use it. When a mobile credential belonging to ownership is in range, the system shows a discrete icon on employee screens. No fanfare, no name, just a signal to verify quietly. It prevents the exact mistake that birthed the incident without turning ownership into theater. The release notes are 2 lines long. Small changes are the ones that last. The security contract amendment clears legal review. De-escalation and witness posture become deliverables with a metric and a quarterly review. The contractor sends a calendar invite for the first scoring session. The guard from that day laughs under his breath when he sees it. He tells Elena he's never had posture graded before. She answers that grading the right thing beats grading how fast the wrong thing happens. HR closes recertification with a 97% completion rate chain-wide. Recognition events unfreeze, but the rules change no confetti for speed. The new badges are earned for proof first behaviors and for clean logs after quiet saves. Elena receives a note from HR, shift differential extended, mentorship track confirmed, eligibility for the permanent lead role pending district sign-off after 2 clean audits. She doesn't post it. She adds the audit dates to a sticky note and goes back to work. Marketing brings a campaign deck to the CEO with tasteful copy about welcoming luxury and a soft video treatment. She flips through it, stops on a line that says guest experience, and asks them to rewrite it as verification first, privacy respected. She explains that comfort in this brand isn't a mood, it's a procedure customers can see. The team nods. The revised copy threads standards into the actual appointment flow instead of floating above it. A board member asks whether the change should make a louder public statement. The CEO brings the packet instead of a speech. She walks the committee through the ledger. Refusal logged, pattern confirmed, access frozen, truth keeper elevated, audit complete, metrics live, contracts amended, training done. She closes the laptop and says 5 words that end the debate. We invested in the fix. Silence follows, then a unanimous vote to shift funds from an awards gala to district mentors and lighting upgrades in 6 older locations. PR can wait, hardware and habits cannot. Elena's first mentorship checkpoint lands. Her mentor reviews a week of her self-audits and circles a single line. You closed 2 escalations at the counter by pointing to the card and the date before saying anything else. Keep that. They build the next goal. Reduce average wait time for private viewings without cutting the verification step. Elena tests a small change preloading appointment files on the tablet before the customer arrives. Wait time drops by a minute. The change gets written into the district playbook. A second boutique in another city reports a clean catch. An associate began to say guests only by reflex, then pivoted mid-sentence to the verification script because the laminated card stared back at her. No crowd, no call, no harm. The ops channel fills for 10 seconds with quiet reactions, thumbs, check marks, noted. The CEO replies with 2 words, standard scale. Mid-month, the nonprofit partner runs the bias-aware workshop in Elena's stockroom. The facilitator keeps it plain. They draw a line on the whiteboard. Policy on one side, habit on the other. Staff write phrases they use under each column. Habit has more ink. The facilitator crosses out 3 soft labels and replaces them with the verification script. People practice out loud until their tongues stop reaching for the old words. Boxes go back on shelves. The room smells like cardboard and is fixed. Legal posts the final version of the standards page with a revision log and a short frequently asked questions. Why do you ask for verification? Where does my information live? How do I ask for a policy by name? It reads like a user manual, not a brand poem. Customers scan the QR at the door, read, nod, shop. Transparency lowers the noise before it starts. Ops pushes a tiny sound change to the stores, the badge reader chirp softens, and the CCTV status LED blinks less aggressively. The boutique feels less like a lab without losing the evidence trail. Little frictions fall away, sales do not spike. Complaints do not spike either, everything steadies. The former manager's separation finalizes. HR notes that exit interviews will remain off camera and off floor. There is no victory lap. The CEO reads the file and signs the last line. Cause code stands. Training modules updated. Contract language amended. Outcome proportional and recorded. She closes the document without commentary. Standards are not a story about a person. They are a map for the next person. By month's end, the district dashboard shows a small pattern the CEO likes. Stores with laminated cards at every counter and a visible route to the district lead have fewer escalations and higher dignity notes. She sends a 5-line memo. Cards mandatory by Friday, district contact at eye level, recert refresh quarterly, witness posture scored, verification first at open daily, no adjectives, only dates. She stops by Elena's boutique unannounced on a Friday afternoon. The floor is calm. The laminated card is clean. The dim corner that once confused camera 3 is now bright and simple. The guard holds the door and smiles like someone whose job now has better verbs. The CEO stands at the counter for one beat and looks at the room a camera would see. She turns to Elena. You kept the line. Elena answers with the same two words she heard on day one. Proof first. The CEO places her hand flat on the glass, once to mark the page, and says, what keeps the record living past sentiment? Log everything. Quarter two begins with fewer meetings that perform concern and more meetings that move parts. The CEO sits with ops, legal, HR, and the district leads in a room that smells like coffee and printer ink. The packet from the boutique is on the screen, not as a trophy, but as a checklist that keeps spawning work. They start with what traveled well and what did not. Verification first stuck, witness posture held, the laminated card became ordinary. One item needs help. Some stores let the card exist as decor instead of a tool. The fix is plain. Pre-open ritual now includes reading the card aloud with the date and pointing to where the policy lives on system. It feels silly for 3 days. Then it becomes muscle memory. The CEO turns to legal. The standards page has steady traffic. The questions that arrive through the form are mostly sober. Where does my information live? Why do you ask for verification? How do I ask for a district lead? Legal built short answers that live in plain language. The CEO asks for one more line at the top. We will show you a policy by name and date upon request. Make the promise visible so staff never have to invent a story under pressure. HR reports on hiring. They rewrote the job posting for floor leads to name proof first as a core skill, not a nice to have. They ask for permission to score candidates on calm decision making using real scenarios from the training module rather than hypothetical theater. The CEO approves and adds a measure many overlook: record hygiene. Can the candidate build a clean log while they serve a customer? It is not glamorous, but it is the backbone of dignity in a room built on valuables and rules. Security arrives with the first quarterly posture score. The boutique that triggered the change now anchors the high end. Not because nothing happens there, but because when something does, the first move is to stand as a witness and let the system speak. The contractor offers to film a short internal demo with the guard from that day. The CEO agrees on one condition: no hero edit. Keep the decisions boring and repeatable. Staff should leave thinking, I can do that, not that I need to be that person. Marketing presents a revised appointment flow that blends standards into the steps customers already take. The screen shows a calm page where a visitor selects a time and sees 3 lines under the calendar. We verify the system first. Privacy is respected. Security is for safety, not theater. The words land like handrails. The CEO signs off and asks for the same copy to appear on the email reminder and the in-store greeting, so the message has the same voice at every touch. Elena completes her second clean audit. The district lead brings her into a small office that doubles as a stockroom and tells her the acting title is over and the real one begins. Floor lead, effective today. The raise is modest. The authority is not. She gets the keys that matter and the permission to slow the room down when speed competes with proof. They do not take photos. They write a date in a log and shake hands like people who know that clarity is the gift. The CEO meets with a civil rights nonprofit that trains service teams. She does not ask for a co-branded statement. She asks for a joint study. They will analyze incident patterns across the chain and publish a short paper on what changed when staff could point to a policy by name and date. The nonprofit agrees because a result tied to a process is more useful than a quote. They set a timeline and a narrow scope. 3 districts, 90 days, shared methods, public summary. The work will travel farther than any press release. Midweek, a small test arrives unannounced. A wealthy client arrives without an appointment and expects the member to open just for him. An associate begins to fold, then catches herself and points to the card and the date. She verifies the schedule on system, offers a private room, and books the next open slot. The client pushes. The associate does not perform defiance. She performs a procedure. He accepts the appointment and returns on time. The room holds its standard because one person found their line. Ops pulls chain data again and sees drift narrowing. Escalations happen less and finish faster when they start with proof. Dignity notes climb using simple words rather than stars. Did someone show you the policy? Did you feel respected? The CEO carries those sentences to the board and trades another marketing spend for improvements customers can actually feel. Lighting in older cases, additional district mentor hours in the 2 regions that still lean amber. The vote is easy because the chart is honest. The boutique that began this story looks like a place where nothing dramatic could happen, which is exactly the point. The guard reads posture as a verb. Associates reach for the tablet before they reach for a label. The laminated card has fingerprints because people touch it while they talk. Elena runs a pre-closed checklist that reads like a path more than a wall. The day ends with small receipts and quiet goodbyes. Before the CEO leaves, she stands at the counter and watches the room the way a camera would. She sees fewer places for confusion to hide. She hears a store that sounds like work rather than performance. She thanks Elena and the team and the guard and the vendor who adjusted his habits to match the floor. She lifts her hand once, not to stop anything, but to mark the moment when a standard became common. Then she uses the sentence that keeps all of it honest when no one is filming. Log everything. Q3 arrives without fanfare. The boutique runs on a calm rhythm that looks ordinary until you notice how many tiny choices land on proof. The laminated card is still at the counter with current dates. The verification script lives in people's mouths like a reflex that never raises its voice. The guard at the door has a posture you can measure now. Hands visible, eyes soft, space held. The store did not become quieter by accident. It became quieter because the record underneath it is thick with clean lines. Ops publishes a mid-quarter brief. Escalations per 1,000 visits are down. When they do happen, they end faster and with fewer hands involved. Dignity notes trend up in the words that matter. I was shown the policy by name and date. Someone verified the system before making a decision. A customer can feel when the work is written down before the mood walks in. The dashboard stops feeling like a scoreboard and starts looking like a weather report. People dress for it and move on. The civil rights nonprofit delivers interim findings from the joint study. 3 districts, 90 days. A simple design. Locations that adopted the verification first ritual and posted the card at eye level saw fewer public calls and fewer mislabels. The paper is small and blunt. It is not a celebration, it is a map. The CEO asks legal to link it from the standards page under a line called, "What changed when we changed our steps?" It is easier to defend a process that shows its math. HR closes the loop on the former manager's file with 2 lines. Cause code stands, support offered off-site, the entry sits in the packet next to everything that moved because of it, training modules, contract language, audit cadence, mentorship tracks. A story that once could have stayed a clip is now a template. Terminate when needed, freeze access, log everything, then repair with dates and names. Vendors notice the difference on the floor. Intake moves without spiking the pulse. Appointments arrive to a room that already knows the file waiting behind the tap. The vendor who shifted his habits that first day sends a short email that reads like a footnote to the culture. The room you keep is the room I can work in. The CEO files it under quiet wins and asks ops to add a line to the vendor guidelines. A line to floor protocol. Verification first. Privacy is respected. No one argues. It is easier to follow a standard that fits in one breath. Marketing ships the updated appointment flow with the 3 lines the CEO approved months ago. Customers begin to repeat the words back at the counter. We verify on the system. Privacy is respected. Security is for safety, not theater. When the front of house and the website say the same sentence, friction has nowhere to hide. The brand stops spending on ad copy that promises a vibe and spends on making a procedure that keeps it. Elena's mentorship track deepens. She shadows a careful lead from another district for 2 hours and returns with notes about how to end a day without leaving invisible work to the next person. She rewrites the pre-closed checklist to include a short pass where each associate reads the card aloud and points to the system on a blank screen as if a customer were there. It feels silly the first time. Then it feels like tying your shoes. No one thinks of it again because it just holds. A small test arrives at noon on a Saturday. A mystery shopper sent by the district steps into the member side without an appointment and waits for a label to land. It never does. The associate points to the card, verifies on system, offers a private viewing slot that keeps the line moving. The shopper leaves a note that could have been written by any customer who cares about the work. I felt respected. I saw the proof. There is no thinking twice after that. Ops rolls out a tiny change to the CRM that closes a gap only staff would notice. When an incident tag starts, the interface shifts to a mode that prioritizes timestamps and role names first, commentary later. The feature nudges people into better logs without calling it a test. A clean record becomes easier to make than a messy one. This is how tools help culture without taking credit for it. The board's ethics committee receives the quarterly packet and spends less time on the headline and more on the footnotes. The chair asks if the laminated card has become decor in any stores. Ops says 2 locations slipped and shows photos. The CEO sets a date to visit both without announcing it, not as a performance, as a nudge. The memo that follows is 5 lines long and ends with a sentence the chain now understands. Standards are what happens when nobody is looking. Press inquiries still come now and then. The brand replies with the live standards page and the study link. No quotes about intention, no personalities offered up for clicks. The facts stay stronger than the narrative. A room that can show you the why does not have to over-explain the who. The story does not belong to a single afternoon anymore. It belongs to the pages of a manual that gets worn from use. Late in the month, the district hosts a small roundtable with floor leads. Elena presents a 10-minute segment called What Went Right After We Stopped Performing Policy. She describes the difference between a rule you memorize and a procedure you can point to with a date. She does not tell her origin story, she tells a shop story. The quiet kinds of wins attend. A senior associate who used to freeze now asks for the policy by name. A guard who used to overstep now stands as witness and scores his own posture. A customer who used to carry old doubts now carries a velvet box. The CEO steps in near close and watches one more reset. Cases locked with 2 sets of eyes. Logs checked, the card was wiped clean and put back at eye level. The door opens and closes for a last repair pickup without anyone rushing or performing. She thanks the team and thanks the guard and nods toward the laminated card the way a conductor nods toward the tempo. Before she leaves, she anchors the day to the line that makes tomorrow's work easy to start. Log everything. Q4 closes like a book that people actually read. The boutique hums, steady and unremarkable in the best way. Ops publishes the final roll-up of the year, and the tiles that once felt novel now look like utilities. Verification first stays green. Witness posture holds. Escalation lag keeps shrinking. Dignity notes climb and clean sentences customers wrote without coaching. I was shown the policy, I saw where it lived, I felt respected. The numbers are not a victory banner. They are proof that the room learned a language and kept speaking it. The civil rights nonprofit releases the short paper the CEO commissioned. 3 districts, 90 days, a sober result. Where staff pointed to a policy by name and date before making judgment, mislabels fell and public calls dropped. The study reads like a manual more than a story. A local business journal links it without spin. The CEO adds the paper to the standards page and to the training module. New hires will not hear about a dramatic afternoon. They will learn about a process that prevents drama. HR finishes a hiring cycle using the new posting. Candidates are screened on record hygiene and calm judgment. A few strong talkers fall out when they cannot build a clean log while their hands move. A quieter set passes easily. The stores that hire them feel less theatrical within weeks. The lesson is simple. If you hire for standards, standards happen. Security arrives with the first annual posture score. The contractor brings clips from sites that adopted the witness module. The footage is dull, which is a compliment. Guards choose positions with intention, keep eyes on exits, let staff and systems lead. The CEO renews the contract with the new metric and adds a small bonus tied to dignity notes. The guard from the incident accepts a thank you and says the line that matters. It was easier because it was written down. Marketing delivers a year-end slate that keeps standards in the appointment flow instead of parading them. The copy stays quiet. We verify on the system. Privacy is respected. Security is for safety. The images stay on product and the way the room feels when the pressure is low. The brand did not try to turn accountability into a billboard. It built it into the door. Ops ships one last software nudge before the holidays. When an incident tag starts, the camera grid prioritizes the angles that matter and pins the log window beside the feed. Staff do not hunt, they record. The tool cuts friction by seconds that feel like years in a live room. Training picks it up the same day with 2 screenshots and a 30-second clip. No fanfare, just a step that sticks. Elena stands a little differently now, not taller, just settled. The permanent lead badge is a small thing on paper. On the floor, it is a set of habits with edges. She runs the pre-open ritual without sounding like a script and ends each day with a short readback into ops that lands like a lullaby for the system. She coaches from proof. She asks for dates. She writes tickets that close. Her team follows the cadence because it works when customers are watching and when they are not. The board's ethics committee holds the year-end review with fewer slides and more artifacts. They handle the laminated card, they scroll the standards page, they read dignity quotes out loud until the room goes quiet. The committee authorizes another year of district mentors and funds, 2 more lighting fixes. They table any awards, galas. Money moves toward the parts that hold a store together when nobody is filming. A small note arrives from a customer who once walked out here angry months ago. He writes that he came back after seeing the standards page and that the associate showed him the policy by name before asking a single question. He says the room felt like a place where a person could be certain what would happen next. He bought a wedding band and left with a receipt and a calm that surprised him. The email is short. It gets printed and taped inside the back office where people actually look. Press tries one more time to extract a personality piece. The brand replies with the study, the standards page, and the audit cadence. No interviews, no behind the scenes. The facts stay the face of the fix. The story belongs to the chain now, not to one voice or one afternoon. On the last Friday before the holiday rush, the CEO stops by the boutique. She walks the floor once, listening for friction that used to squeak in the corners. The card sits at eye level with a fresh date. The SOP binder carries scuffed edges from hands that use it. The guard smiles like someone whose job now includes a craft. The customers do not know the history and do not need to. They are here to buy something and to leave with their dignity. The CEO thanks Elena, and the team then calls ops from the counter as if it were any other day. Final note for year-end: verification first held, witness posture adopted, escalation lag reduced, dignity notes strong, contract language amended, training is permanent, study published, next year's action items, refresh cards quarterly, keep the ritual, audit dim corners, mentor the 2 amber stores until green sticks. Ops reads it back in a voice that sounds like a metronome. The work will not need speeches to continue. The CEO sets the phone down, rests her hand flat on the glass for one measured beat, and says the line that anchored a chain and turned a moment into a system. Log everything.